Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an upload just jam-packed full of terrifying encounters and some very startling information. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? Really quick, anytime a subscriber sends me a gift, I like to thank them personally online or in an upload to just say, hey, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I talk a lot and all the time pretty much about books that people should pick up and read, different ones full of information. Well, I've shared this book with you, and I've had this book since, 2001 was when I first bought my first copy of Behold the Pale Horse by Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper also used an alias, and he wrote sometimes under Commander X. This book I bought just recently called Ultimate Deception by Commander X. Great book. If you guys can get your hands on it, you will not be able to get a new copy. You more than likely will find a used copy. They run anywhere between, I paid $65 for mine. I know sometimes people can find them for like $40, $45. But a subscriber, Pup7, just sent me this book, another book by Commander X and Tim Schwartz called Time Travel, Fact, Not Fiction, Time Slips, Real Time Machines, and How to Experiments to Go Forward or Backward Through Time. Actual cases of people who have traveled through time and space. Once again, this is written by Bill Cooper, and as many of you know, he was former naval intelligence, murdered by the United States government to keep him quiet. If you can get your hands on any of those books, I truly suggest doing it. Great read, great information, and you won't be finding them at Barnes and Nobles. I can tell you that much. But thank you, pups. I truly appreciate it. You know I do. And let's get into today's upload. Today's first encounter. Hello, everyone. I am 33 years old, born and raised in North New Jersey. Maybe 2 years ago, my daughter's father and I used to love on going late-night ghost hunting trips. We would visit cemeteries, look up old abandoned asylums and landmarks to attempt to make contact with other beings of the paranormal. We had a few awesome times, most of which were in actual cemeteries. I would witness shadow figures, and we'd get a lot of activity on the spirit box. One day, I found an interesting location. It's located in Trenton, New Jersey. It's an old abandoned child orphanage that used to operate as an insane asylum. It was late on this night, maybe 10 p.m. We were following GPS to the location, hoping not to run into the police or deal with being run off because we wanted to get inside of these buildings. As we drove past the side of the actual orphanage, my mind was not on finding cryptids or any creatures, but as we were scoping this place out to see if there was any security, suddenly, out of absolutely nowhere, I saw this dark black, blacker than black, only what I could describe as a canine body shape. But when I saw it, the thing was in the middle of jumping out of view next to the side of the road. All I was able to fully see was the lower half of this thing from the stomach to the tail as it leapt out of sight. Scared the shit out of me. What stuck out was its tail. This thing's tail was like a fox's, bushy and large. But New Jersey doesn't have fox, certainly not black fox. This animal was larger than a dog, much larger than a coyote. Like I said, I was not out this evening with this in mind to see. I was only going ghost hunting. I turned to my boyfriend, who was driving, and asked if he saw what I saw. He didn't. Which makes sense because this thing was on my side of the car, and it was dark, whatever it was. I never saw its face or its upper body. It literally leapt from one side of the road into the brush next to the building. It was on all fours, but New Jersey doesn't have wolves or, like I said, black fox, or anything of that matter that fits. I Googled all native animals to New Jersey, and nothing was like what I saw. If I had to describe it in my own words, I would say I saw a large black wolf with a furry, shaggy tail like a fox tail. If I witnessed this thing in another state, say Montana or even Florida, I would have an open mind. But do your own research. New Jersey doesn't have any animals native to it with that description. I have never seen a Dogman or even a Bigfoot. I have no doubt that they are real, but I wonder sometimes if that's what I saw, some kind of Dogman or canine-like creature. I know I wasn't seeing things that were blacker than the blackest of the night. It scared the bejesuses out of me as well. This was in Trenton, New Jersey, maybe 10 p.m. back in 2021. Either New Jersey is home to large wolves or someone's pitch-black mastiff dog was on the loose with a bushy tail. Please, if anyone's had a similar sighting or has a clue of what I saw, I'm open to anything. Today's second encounter. Hello, everyone. First and foremost, I am not a native English speaker, so pardon if I make any grammar mistakes. I had just recently got into cryptids because of something I saw as a teenager. I was 16, close to 17, and I think I saw what is considered to be a Dogman. It was early summer. To give a quick backstory, I was born and raised in Croatia. More precisely would be Slovenia, near and around Nova Gradiška, which is the upper part of Croatia, bordering Bosnia. Lots of straight land, rare hills, and lots of forest. My dad is a car mechanic, and he met a few guys from Zagreb, hunters. They had some hunting lodges in the forest around 7 kilometers after the end of my back then village. I don't know if they still own the lodge, as I haven't seen them for 9 years, as I moved away as soon as I turned 18. Anyway, they knew each other well, so he went on a few hunting nights with them. They have this fancy hunting house, I would call it. It's a mini room on a top of 4 long legs. So imagine a regular hunting post, but with a small room instead of an open space. And in that room are 2 beds around the hunting house, I will call it. So around it, in about 100-meter range, they had 4 stone fence posts in each corner, and a little sensor on them. The sensor would detect movement, and if they were asleep, they had a piece of vibrating electrical strap. either on their wrist or necklace to wake them up. So one night, me being 16 and bored, I asked if I could join them at some point one night. Sure, they said. I'll just be company. One of them will be on a different post, and me and an older guy. Let's call him Marco. We were in another one approximately 2 kilometers away from the first guy. I was nervous, pure darkness, trenching through the woods with nothing but a small flashlight, scared crapless. We got to the hunting house, went up, and I got the rundown of what I explained earlier. So sensors, vibrations, with added comments of obviously being quiet. Night starts, nothing, slow. We whisper. Marco is explaining to me basic hunting rules and about poachers for about 2 hours before we decide to lie down. It was around 11 p.m. at that point. I got a vibration bracelet while Marco had a necklace. At around 3 a.m., I got woken up by the bracelet vibrating. I opened my eyes, pitch darkness, but I see Marco is already up with his rifle in hand. He was point on the south side window, which was behind me or behind my back. That's the side he heard rustling not too long before I woke up. It was a bright night. After a couple of minutes, my eyes got used to the darkness. I could see fairly well on open spots. The feeding ground for wild boar they have set up was maybe 60 meters away. There was a mom boar and 3 little ones. They looked little. Later, when I got closer, I got a reality check. The little ones were at least 70 kilograms. We're looking at them, and Marco is looking through his scope. The vibration stopped as they activated the sensor, and we're now inside the range. As I'm plugging my ears like Marco tells me to, my bracelet vibrates. Marco lowers his rifle, waiting to see. Later, he told me he thought maybe more little ones were joining the big mama boar. We're looking at them when in a matter of seconds, 2 little boar just went flying, like they flew, like something just shot them out of a cannon. And for a few seconds, you could see the mama boar being picked up by this, what you would call, Dogman. It was big, like 3 meters easily. My perception of how big what is bad, but comparing the later small hogs to this thing, I would say easily 3 meters. It was standing on 2 legs, and one of its arms rested on the ground, while the other had picked up the big boar by the neck and was holding it in the air. This thing was a little bit hunched, looked black, but then again, it was night, and I could see its wolf-like head. Back then, as a kid, I audibly gasped or screamed. I can't remember correctly, but the thing stood up looking in our direction, dropped the mama boar, and ran toward our direction. Marco was scared shitless. I was pissing myself. It was punching on the legs of our house for a couple of minutes. You could hear it rustling as it was breathing heavily, until you could hear a shot from afar. After that, nothing, pure silence, no rustling, no nothing. Marco and I were now next to each other. We did not sleep. We didn't look through the windows until the morning arrived, and it was around 8:30 a.m. when his buddy, the first guy, came to our hunting house and called for us. The 2 little ones were close to us in the brush, broken back mama boar. Even though we saw the thing drop it, mama boar was not there, only big like paw prints, but with an extra toe or a weird position. If the thing had eyes, I didn't see any when it looked at us. The forest was still completely quiet, too much so. We went and grabbed the Jeep we had parked on the road a little ways away before going by foot to our cabin the night before. We took the Jeep, loaded the 2 little boar in the Jeep, It was one of those old World War II military Jeeps, green in color, leather-like roof, 2 seats. Marco and the other guy talked. It seems it wasn't the first time they saw this thing. I will never forget it. Just never knew there was anything about it on the internet until I learned about these things and didn't know if I should say anything or not. Just that I hadn't gone near a forest since that night. I moved to Germany and am staying away from the wilderness. If you don't understand, I apologize. I really tried. Thank you very much and cheers. Well, I understood, I think what they were trying to describe was these like hunting cabins raised up on stilts. It seems like there was 4 of them scattered throughout the forest. Couple beds in each one, and that way they could hunt from each location and possibly all get something. Very interesting old world Dogman experience. Obviously, I love to have old Europe. Even though that's not old, I like to read about the European dogmen. Just because of the fact that all of these old folklore tales, like Grimm and stuff, all come from that area, Obviously, we've had Dogman in the New World or Americas for a very long time, probably before settlers were even here. But I just think the European ones are cool too. All right, let's get into the next encounter. I wasn't sure if I should share this experience with anyone else outside of my small circle of people that were there. But I want to share this experience in hopes that it does save someone's life or gives an understanding of what someone else had experienced. It was late fall 2010 in northern Canada. I went deep into the wilderness with my dad and my eldest brother to hunt for moose. We left in the early morning, just before sunrise, trying to cover as much distance as possible before nightfall. We traveled winding rivers and had to repeatedly portage over the rapids all day. So we decided to set up camp just over halfway to our destination. My dad figured that we'd make the rest of the journey the next day. Well, when everyone was bedded down for the night, I decided to go and grab some firewood and relieve myself by the bank of the river, just outside of the light from the campfire. Out from the tree line, about 15 yards away, I could hear rustling in the brush. I watched the area where I heard the noise and focused on the spot. I felt kind of funny, dizzy, lightheaded, and I could smell this putrid odor, like old milk or rotten food. Then I saw the trees start to morph and move ever so slightly and begin to take the shape of a head and slight facial features. My eyes began to adjust to the darkness, and along the tree line I could hear this voice coming from there. I recognized it. The voice sounded like one of my relatives who had just recently passed away. The face took the shape of my relative. "Hello," they said. "I've missed you. Come and see me." I smiled and stepped forward a bit, but stopped to analyze the situation. My relative's face stopped smiling and became emotionless. The skin began to turn pale and peel away. Chunks of flesh from their cheeks began to fall, and I felt shock and fear overwhelm my body. I couldn't make sense of this all, so I started to back away and make my way to camp. I didn't realize at the time that I had been walking toward the voice and was further away from the firelight. The voice became angry and began shouting at me, "Come here." So I turned and ran, but as I looked back one more time, I saw the most disgusting thing I had ever seen. It was rotting flesh on gnawed bone, caved-in eyes, and a hollow chest cavity. This humanoid creature was tall and thin. I ran as fast as I could, trying to yell for help, but The fear made my voice quiet and raspy. I ran along the river bank, and I could hear the heavy breaths and the stomping feet from this thing right behind me. I made it onto the top of the riverbank, but it grabbed a hold of my leg as I jumped up. I tripped and tore the grass trying to lift myself and yelled as loud as I could. Then finally my voice came back and I yelled, "Someone has my leg!" My brother woke up and ran over to where I was. Then he pulled me up and took me over to the fire. I was terrified, trying to explain what I had seen and that it looked like my relative, but not. I was trying to convince them that I wasn't seeing things, but my brother nodded his head and said, "I saw it as well, I know." That solidified it. He acknowledged that it was real. We stayed up all night after that, rifles loaded and close by. We packed up when the sun was coming up and went back home. We haven't shared this experience with anyone out of fear of being labeled as a crazy liar. I've had nightmares and couldn't sleep for months after. I would see things, dark figures looking into my window, hearing voices. When I was walking home at night, eventually I saw this dark figure daily. I went to a medicine man/shaman for help, but I've learned that the ceremonies only relieve it temporarily. Friends had given me everything from a protection pouch to certain crystals. I found out that there's a strong possibility that I may have encountered a Wendigo. I learned that if you encounter one and survive, it attaches itself to you like a parasite. I learned that it could only do this if it touched you, which it did. Ever since that night, I have been on edge when I enter any forest or wooded area, which sucks because I loved being outside, hunting in the nature. Now, I always feel like I need to keep my back against something when I'm out in the wild. Anyway, make your own conclusions about this. I paid the price for being an ignorant child to the stories of the old. They are real. I can attest to that. All right, tonight's final bit of experience and information. Just like that last experience when he heard his brother say he saw it as well, which solidified it for being, real for him. This really goes a long way with what we discuss on this channel a lot of the times, especially as of late. I've been diving deep into the one government, the dark government, dumbs, them using these creations, creatures, them using creations such as possibly the crawler, and other things that they have no business messing with. So this really does solidify a lot of what we discuss here. So let's get into it. I really don't like to discuss conspiracy theories, especially those that may pertain to the government. I'll admit that my research and reports on the occasion easily fall into the category, but I prefer to stay clear. Nonetheless, there is no denying that much of what I'm about to post leans toward plots and schemes. Over the years, I've received many inquiries concerning my Bigfoot encounter on May 9th, 1981 near Sykesville, Maryland. To be honest, I've had a few lingering questions about my sighting as well. In particular, what did I actually see? Was it a Bigfoot or was it something else? At the time, I call it Bigfoot because, frankly, that was the only way I could describe it. It wasn't human. It wasn't an ape. I've tried to comprehend exactly what it was that I encountered. One of the more consistent questions I have received concerns the quick reaction by the officials after my phone call to the local police. I feel that this being had been under close surveillance at the time I witnessed it. There are only two scenarios that I feel may be plausible. I do know that other witnesses made a report of seeing a hairy hominid approximately 3 hours before my experience, near Marriottsville, Maryland, a few miles downstream from my location, or this creature had possibly escaped from an unknown facility. The Sykesville Police Department has no official records of what happened on that day, no phone logs or reports. In fact, the local police have no records of the 1973 Sykesville monster incident either. I have made FOIA inquiries to all agencies that I feel were involved. No information has ever been forwarded to me. On May 23, 2015, I received a phone call from an investigator who lives in Maryland. We set up an interview for that evening. His first question to me was, had I ever heard of the location in Sykesville area referred to as the Monkey House? Apparently, one of the witnesses in 1973 had made a comment at the time that the Sykesville monster, was probably from the Monkey House. None of the witnesses I've talked to in 81 after my encounter ever mentioned the Monkey House. I made several inquiries over the years about this Monkey House. According to one such source, the original witness may have been referring to a 2-story building that once stood near a present-day police and correctional training facility on Slacks Road, which was located just south from the former sprawling Springfield Hospital Center. This building was officially designated as a laundry facility used by the state hospital. I recall the building, and from what I remember, it had significant security around it. I was told at the time that correctional inmates were kept there to launder clothing and linens as part of their work detail. Many locals questioned this explanation because it just didn't seem right. The moniker, Monkey House, may have been used for the most part, but people who worked at Springfield, the building was eventually razed and replaced by a residential community. The investigator stated that he was ex-U.S. Air Force and had worked at a government facility north of Baltimore in Hartford County in the early 80s. The location and facility still exist. He is part of a group of ex-military who were employed to perform general work around the facility. On one particular hot, humid day, he and his crew were working outside on a specific building at this government facility. They had been told that they could walk inside the building if they needed to be quick and break. They had been told that they could walk inside the building if they needed a quick break and drink of water. He states that he entered the building looking for a water fountain but couldn't locate one. He walked deeper into the building and soon witnessed a large, heavy, reinforced door that seemed out of place. The door had been damaged as if it had been rammed by something of significant size and power. By this time, he was approached by a woman in uniform who informed him that he was in a classified area, that he must leave immediately. He explained that he was looking for a water fountain. A security officer was now on the scene, and he directed the witness to a water fountain as they were heading toward the building's exit. The witness inquired about the damaged door. The security officer only mentioned that the door was damaged by something confined behind it. After several years of scrutiny and questions, the investigator believes that the building was used for research that contained unknown bipedal beings and that somehow escaped between 79 and 84. And he had received information that 20 to 30 individuals of both sexes had been in the building for some period. He also mentioned that during this period, there had been many Bigfoot sightings at Rocks State Park and Gunpowder Falls State Park, which are located near the government facility. I have been aware of Bigfoot sightings in these locations over the years, but I don't know if these sightings are related to the aforementioned escapees. Of course, this information is completely anecdotal and based on one witness account. So let's be hypothetical for a second. Is it possible that the being I witnessed near Sykesville, Maryland in 81 was an escaped experiment? Was there a facility in the Sykesville area known to some as the Monkey House? Was there another incident or a series of incidents at another facility in Maryland during the same spot? I have talked to several people who were aware of it or part of various governmental biological experiments. One facility that continued to come up in the conversation was Edgewood Arsenal in Hartford County, Maryland, the same facility mentioned by the investigator. A 1994 documentary titled Bad Trip to Edgewood can be viewed. It starts by showing clips of animals being cruelly tested in the Edgewood laboratory, with a voiceover stating that the animals were always tested before humans. The clips are highly disturbing, but then the documentary states that such experiments were not confined to animals. The Medical Research Volunteer Program was conducted at the facility between 1948 and 75. The aim of these experiments was to analyze the impact of chemical warfare agents on military personnel, to test the likes of vaccines, pharmaceuticals, and protective clothing. It is now known that 7,000 soldiers and 1,000 civilians were used as guinea pig, half of which were tested with the so-called psychochemicals and mind-altering drugs. The medical volunteers were never told what the chemicals were, and when they asked what the drugs were, they were told to not question. But what is the actual extent of the experiments taking place at Edgewood and other facilities throughout the country? The location in Edgewood was later designated as a United States Army Medical Research Institute of Chemical Defense. At the Edgewood area, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, it is also known that the United States Army Research Development Engineering Command, Edgewood Chemical Biological Center. It has been speculated that the Soviet dictator Stalin ordered the creation of a ultra-humanoid warrior by crossing humans with apes, according to the secret documents uncovered in 2005. In the mid-20s, the USSR top animal breeding scientist Lya Ivanov was ordered to turn his skills from horse and animal work to the quest of a super warrior. According to Moscow newspaper, Stalin told the scientist, "I want a new invisible human being, insensitive to pain, resistant, and indifferent about the quality of your food." The project failed because the technology was not available. Is it possible that the United States government embarked on a project remotely paralleling the Soviets? Again, the investigator I interviewed stated the building was used for research and contained unknown bipedal beings that had somehow escaped between 79 and 84. He had received information that 20 to 30 individuals of both sex had been in the building at some point. He also mentioned that during this period of time, there had been many Bigfoot sightings at Rock State Park and Gunpowder Falls, which are located near the government facility. I will state now that the investigator was once employed by the United States Air Force of Special Investigations and continued as a private investigator after retiring from the military. As to his other resources, he did not disclose them. There have been many hairy humanoid sightings in Hartford, Baltimore County, Maryland, north of Pennsylvania, west of the Susquehanna River over the past 40 years, not unlike my sighting near Sykesville. Most of the descriptions were human-like faces. In fact, many of the East Coast hairy hominids share that description, as opposed to the description of ape-like features further west. This all begs for another familiar question. Why haven't any of these beings ever been caught or found dead? If bioengineered is a part of the development of these beings, Who is to say that reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology has never been incorporated in the formulation of this or any other life form? Could certain technology give these beings the ability to cloak or be multi-universe travelers? Who is to say the other unknown beings or other bipedal cryptids cannot possess similar traits? This may be a big drop into a rabbit hole, but I will never discount a man's willingness to venture ever closer to his creator. My question is, how far will the governments go? So a lot of what that gentleman just shared really does fit with about 90% of the stuff that we talk about on a daily basis here. His puzzle pieces pretty much line up with what we discuss, which is pretty awesome. I think that the only way we will ever really get an answer that will remotely fit with what we are searching for is by constantly questioning, constantly comparing notes with each other. And by doing that, we open ourselves up to be more open to others' ideas, theories, and less likely to dismiss them because they don't line up with our own. So anyway, with that, guys, thank you for supporting this channel. It is your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go. And honestly, what makes it a place for people to share their theories, ideas, and experiences, judgment and ridicule free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their life someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. And God bless.